Kira froze mid-stride. Her breath caught in her throat as the sound echoed through the woods, high-pitched, panicked, and abruptly cut off like someone had slammed a door on it. She pulled her earbuds out, heart hammering now more from fear, then exertion. For a second, the only sound was the thump of her own pulse. She wasn't supposed to be out this far. The trail had long since thinned, the trees now taller, closer, darker. She only ran out this way when she really needed to think or forget. Today it was both. The scream had come from somewhere ahead, just past the bend near the old ravine. She stepped forward slowly, instinct wrestling logic. Maybe it was a fox or someone playing a prank. But that sound, it was too human, too terrified. She took a few more steps, hands trembling slightly, scanning the brush around her. Nothing, just the crunch of dead leaves beneath her sneakers and the eerie stillness that followed, and then movement. A man stumbled out of the trees up ahead, dirty and disoriented, with blood on his forehead and clothes that looked like they'd been through a war. He stopped when he saw her. "Help," he gasped. "Please, don't let him find me." Kira instinctively stepped back. "Who? What happened to you?" He looked over his shoulder like he was being hunted. "He's still out there. You have to run. He hears everything." And then he collapsed. Kira didn't remember dialing 911 or crouching beside him, her hands trembling as she checked for a pulse. He was breathing. Barely. The police and ambulance came fast. Too fast almost, like they'd already been looking for someone. The EMTs took him unconscious to the nearest hospital. But it was the police officer, a broad-shouldered man named Detective Grayson, who stayed behind to talk to Kira. "You shouldn't have been out here," he said simply, looking into the trees like he expected them to whisper back. "You're lucky." "Who was he?" she asked. "And who's he running from?" Grayson hesitated. "We're trying to find out, but we think he's connected to 2 other disappearances." Kira's skin prickled. "Disappearances? What kind?" "Joggers," he said. "Both men, both vanished within a mile radius of this trail." That night, Kira barely slept, not just from the fear, but because she couldn't stop thinking about the man's eyes, the way he looked at her like she was his last chance, the desperation, the terror. And then, the next morning, the news hit. The man she found had vanished from the hospital. No trace. No security footage. His hospital bed empty, IV drip still hanging, his bloodied clothes left behind. It made no sense. 3 days later, Kira couldn't leave it alone. She kept searching, digging. The more she learned, the worse it got. The first missing jogger was named Simon Tran, a marathon runner who never returned from a morning run near the same trail. The second was Jake Pollard, a local gym teacher with no enemies, no debts, no history. He'd vanished 4 months earlier. Both cases had gone cold. Now this mystery man, who she'd seen with her own eyes, had vanished too. But it wasn't just that. Her phone started ringing at night. Silent calls, no number, no voice, just breathing. She changed her number. It didn't stop. She stopped jogging, didn't help. Then came the note, slid under her apartment door one evening. "You were never supposed to see him." She reported everything to Detective Grayson, but his tone had shifted now. He seemed distant, cold. "Maybe you're just on edge," he offered. "I found him," she snapped. "I know what I saw." He gave her a small smile. "People. See strange things in the woods." She left the station furious and scared. Something wasn't right. Grayson wasn't telling her everything. Maybe the department was covering something up. Later that night, Kira got drunk. She wasn't proud of it, but it dulled the panic long enough for her to convince herself she'd imagined most of it. That somehow this would all go away, until she checked her front door. A Polaroid photo was taped to it, of her sleeping, taken from inside her bedroom. She ran, not to the cops, not to her parents. She didn't want to involve anyone else. She ran, straight to the one person she'd hoped never to see again. Her ex-fiancé, Nolan. They hadn't spoken in over a year, not since she'd caught him cheating with a co-worker. But Nolan was a survivalist, ex-military, paranoid as hell, and the one person who might believe her. He opened the door and stared at her like she was a ghost. "I need your help," she said. To his credit, he didn't ask questions. He let her in, let her cry, let her tell the whole story. He nodded once when she was done. "You're being hunted," he said flatly, "but not just by a person. Something bigger, something coordinated." "What do you mean?" He walked to his laptop and opened a folder. Inside were screenshots, news clippings, maps. "I've been tracking similar disappearances. All runners, all near isolated trails, across different states. There's a pattern. Why would someone go after joggers?" He looked her dead in the eye. "Because they're easy, predictable, and no one notices when one goes missing." At first, they dug deeper together over the next few days. The more they found, the less it made sense. The man Kira found, no hospital records, no ID, no DNA match. It was like he never existed. And then, one night, while Nolan stepped out to get food, Kira heard something on his police scanner, which he kept running 24/7. Body found off Ridgeview Trail. Male. Estimated dead 4-5 days. Her heart stopped. That was the trail. She called Nolan. No answer. She rushed out of the house, keys in hand, heart pounding so hard she could barely breathe. She reached Ridgeview Trail in under 10 minutes. There were already flashing lights up ahead. She parked far off, ducked under the police tape, and crept forward. And then she saw him. The man she'd saved, lying in a shallow ditch. His throat slashed, his eyes wide open in terror. Dead. Real. Confirmed. But that couldn't be possible. He disappeared from the hospital 3 days ago, but the coroner said he'd been dead for 5. Kira staggered back from the scene, her mind racing. If he was dead for 5 days, who did she see in the hospital? Who called her? Who left the photo? Her phone buzzed. One new message. "Now you know. But you still don't understand. Part 2 begins tomorrow." Kira didn't sleep that night. She stared at the message on her phone until the screen dimmed, the words burning into her memory like a brand. The man she'd found bleeding in the woods was already dead when she saw him alive in the hospital. So who or what did she help? And why was she being pulled deeper into this? She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. Instead, she did what she always did when the world didn't make sense. She went for a jog, but this time, not on the trail. She ran loops around the block, constantly checking over her shoulder. Her breath caught in her chest every time she passed a parked car or turned a corner too fast. The world had shifted. The air even felt different, colder, tighter, like something was watching. She told herself she was imagining it until she got home and found her front door open. Her breath froze in her lungs. She stepped back, reached into her pocket for the tiny pepper spray she always carried, and crept forward. The door creaked wider. Nothing inside looked broken. Nothing stolen. But on her kitchen counter, a single Polaroid. This one was of her, again, sleeping. But now, the timestamp on the photo showed it had been taken an hour ago. She hadn't even noticed herself falling asleep on the couch after. The news. That meant someone had been in her home while she was there, and they'd left proof. She packed a small bag and drove straight to Nolan's place. No time for explanations. No time for pride. He opened the door half asleep and pulled her inside the second he saw her face. "I'm being hunted," she whispered. "I know," he said, "and we just got our first clue." He led her to his office, where his laptop screen showed a grainy security feed, one still frame, a man standing just outside his back door, wearing what looked like a park ranger's uniform. But it wasn't the clothes that made Kira's blood run cold. It was the face, the same man she found in the woods. The same man who was now officially dead. "Either this guy has a twin," Nolan said slowly, "or someone's playing with corpses." Kira didn't respond. She was staring at the eyes in the photo. They looked the same, but empty, like the person inside had been switched off. That's when Nolan pulled up the list of jogger disappearances again. 6 men, all fit, all in their 20s or early 30s, all last seen alive on trails, across different states. I've been tracking similar cases, Nolan said. But here's the thing, none of the bodies have been found. Not one. Until now, Kira whispered. He nodded, but this is the first time someone saw one of them alive again, after they were already dead. They needed answers, so they went back to the trail, not to jog, to search. Nolan brought a drone, a camera, and a concealed weapon. Kira carried a flashlight, a map, and a secret feeling she couldn't shake. That something was waiting for them. They started where she found the man the first time. The ground still held the marks of the EMTs and police tape, now removed. The trees whispered above them. The trail was silent, not even birds. And then, Nolan stopped. Do you hear that? Kira froze. Faint music, a melody. Soft, almost like a lullaby, drifting through the trees. They followed it, staying low, until they reached a clearing, one Kira had never seen before. In the center was a small cabin, half-rotten, windows blacked out, and from inside came the music. I thought this part of the trail was closed, she whispered. It is, Nolan replied. According to the Parks Department, this cabin doesn't exist. They circled the cabin. No tire tracks, no signs of human life. Except for the man standing silently by the side wall. Same ranger uniform, same dead eyes. He didn't move, didn't blink, just stood there until Nolan whispered, "Back up, slowly." Kira turned to move and stepped on a branch. Crack. The man's head snapped toward them, but his body didn't move. His head had rotated nearly 180 degrees without his shoulders shifting an inch. Then he smiled. They ran. Through the trees, over brush, hearts pounding. The music still floated after. Them, chasing them like smoke. They didn't stop until they reached Nolan's truck, slammed the doors shut, locked them. Nothing followed. But the next morning they checked Nolan's drone footage. It showed something they hadn't seen. As they ran, 3 more figures stepped out of the woods behind them. Identical uniforms, identical dead eyes, all smiling. Kira wanted to go to the FBI. Nolan stopped her. This isn't just a killer, it's a network, maybe even something inhuman. Inhuman? She snapped. Are you seriously going there? He showed her the footage again. The head, the eyes, the impossible smile. That man was already dead. You saw him die. But he came back. Kira stood, shaking her head. Then what are we up against? Nolan didn't answer. Because at that moment, a knock came at the door. 3 knocks, slow, heavy. They froze. Nolan reached for his gun, but when he opened the door, no one was there. Just another Polaroid of the 2 of them, standing in the cabin clearing moments before the man appeared. But the picture wasn't taken from the trees. It was taken from inside the cabin. They left town the next day. No warning, no forwarding address. Just ran. Kira took leave from work. Nolan shut down all his accounts. They burned their phones. They drove 3 states away to a rental cabin by a lake. Remote, safe, or so they thought. On their 3rd night there, the electricity went out. Nolan went outside to check the fuse box. He didn't come back. Kira waited 10 minutes, then 20. Then she stepped outside and saw footprints in the dirt, too large for Nolan. Barefoot, leading into the woods. She called for him. No answer. Then her phone buzzed. A text. This isn't about jogging anymore, it's about you. Attached was a video file. Shaking, she opened it. The screen flickered to life. It was footage of Nolan, bound, gagged, blood on his face. He was inside the cabin from the woods. And then a voice off camera whispered, "Part 3 begins now." Kira stared at the video on her phone, fingers trembling. Nolan was tied to a chair inside that same nightmare cabin, head drooped, a fresh cut bleeding down his cheek, his breath visible in the cold. Behind the camera, a low, distorted voice whispered, "Come alone, you'll know the trail, you always did." Then the screen went black. She couldn't breathe. She'd run before, from grief, from fear, from her life after her sister died. But not this time. She slipped on her running shoes, the ones she'd worn the day this horror started, and whispered to herself, "You want me back in the woods? I'm coming, but this time, I won't be the one afraid." The trail looked different now, like it knew she was coming. The trees leaned closer, the fog hung heavier, and that haunting melody from before, the lullaby, floated faintly between the trees. She didn't bring her phone. No backup, just a flashlight and a knife, and Nolan's voice in her head. "Sometimes what you're running from isn't behind you, it's inside you." She reached the clearing. The cabin stood just as before, but now its windows glowed dimly with light. She stepped forward. The front door was already open. Inside, the smell of blood and something older. Rot. Damp wood, maybe. Death itself filled her lungs. She whispered Nolan's name, no answer, but someone was breathing in the dark. "Come in, Kira," the voice said. Low, familiar, wrong. She stepped in, knife ready, and then she saw him. Not Nolan. Jake, her ex. The man who left her after her sister's funeral. The one she hadn't seen in 2 years. He stepped forward from the shadows, eyes dull, face pale, like something had hollowed him out. "You died," she breathed. "You killed yourself in that river. I saw the report." "I did," he said, softly. "But death didn't take me, they did." He stepped closer. "I tried to warn you, Kira. The trails, the joggers, we were all chosen. We weren't supposed to survive." He held up a hand, and in it, he had Nolan's phone. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "but he's not going to make it. They want you now." Kira lunged. The blade caught Jake's arm, but no blood came out. He didn't even flinch. Instead, he whispered, "You have to remember what really happened. The day your sister died." Kira froze. "Shut up. She died jogging with you. You told the police she got lost, but she didn't, did she? Shut up. She was taken. You saw it happen, but you were too scared to say anything, so you lied. You buried it. You ran." Kira dropped the knife. The memory slammed into her. Like ice water, 10 years ago, a sunny trail, laughter, her little sister Lana running ahead, teasing her, then a shadow, a man in a ranger's uniform, and then Lana screaming. Kira had frozen. She hid behind a tree. She saw him drag Lana into the woods, saw the cabin, but she never told anyone. The guilt became a tumor inside her. She told police Lana must have taken a wrong turn, got lost, disappeared. But she knew the truth. She'd left her sister behind. Now Jake stepped closer, his voice eerily calm. "You never ran to forget. You ran to punish yourself. That's why you kept jogging the same trail, hoping they'd take you too." "I didn't know," she whispered. "I didn't know it was them. They never stopped. They took Lana, then me, then all the joggers like us, the lost ones, the guilty ones, the ones who wouldn't be missed." He paused. "And now they want to complete their pattern. They want you, Kira." A low creak echoed from the back of the cabin. Jake turned, suddenly panicked. "You need to go. Now!" "But Nolan, there's no time." He yelled, for the first time sounding human again. He grabbed her shoulders. "There's still a chance for one of you. Run! Now!" But she didn't. She looked past Jake and saw a trapdoor behind him, cracked open, light flickering from below. Without thinking, she shoved Jake aside and bolted down the stairs. What she found was not human. Below the cabin was a long concrete corridor, old, abandoned, like part of some forgotten bunker. Flickering lights buzzed overhead, and the smell, bleach, metal, fear. Doors lined the hallway, steel ones, all with names scratched. Into them, she ran past them, scanning. Jason T, rejected Mark B, failed Lana H. Test subject. Number 5, she froze. Lana's name. She pushed open the door. The room was empty, except for a dusty Polaroid on the floor. It was of 2 little girls laughing on a hiking trail. She picked it up, tears forming. Then a soft cough behind her. She spun around. Nolan, barely standing, bloody, alive. She caught him before he collapsed. "Where's Lana?" she whispered. Nolan coughed. "Gone." They tried experiments, memory erasure, body duplication. They called them echo hosts. Most failed. Some turned into things. Jake, half of him. The other half isn't him anymore. He pulled something from his pocket, a small USB drive. This has everything. They recorded everything. Locations, names, experiments, proof. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. Jake's voice. Different now. Deeper. Less human. They won't let. "You leave, Kira. You were supposed to be next." She helped Nolan to his feet. "We need an exit," she hissed. He pointed down the hall. "Maintenance tunnel leads to the riverbed." They ran. Behind them, the light bulbs began to explode one by one. They burst out of the tunnel into moonlight. The cabin behind them burned. Jake, or whatever he'd become, stood in the doorway, face blank, watching them vanish into the trees. 2 days later, Kira uploaded the footage to 6 independent journalists, 2 whistleblower sites, and 1 ex-FBI contact Nolan still trusted. Within 24 hours, the cabin site was burned to the ground by authorities. Within 48 hours, the agency that had once operated the underground experiments was wiped from public records. But it was too late. The world knew. And more survivors began speaking up. Joggers, hikers, campers, all with stories of rangers that didn't bleed, cabins that moved, disappearances no one believed. Kira didn't jog anymore. She walked slowly, with intention, through cities, parks, neighborhoods. Every time she passed someone in uniform, she looked them in the eyes and waited for them to blink. She never saw Jake again. But once, 6 months later, she found a new Polaroid in her mailbox. No return address, just a picture of her and Lana, and scrawled on the back, Kira stared at the Polaroid in her hand. It was new, not aged like the others, fresh, glossy. Lana's face smiling back at her, only older. Someone had taken this recently, and deep down, she knew what it meant. Lana was still alive. 6 months had passed since she and Nolan escaped that hellish bunker beneath the woods. 6 months of leaking files, testifying, therapy, guilt. The world now knew what had happened to hundreds of missing joggers, but the government still denied it. Whistleblowers vanished. Evidence was scrubbed. And Jake, gone. Some said he died. In that fire, others believed he had never really been human again. But Kira had a different theory, and it was the one that kept her up at night. Somehow, Jake was trying to help her. Now, she was in New Mexico, drawn by a GPS ping hidden. In that Polaroid, an abandoned military base, razor wire fences, sandstorms slicing through the silence. Nolan had begged her not to go, but she'd made peace with death. What she hadn't made peace with was the truth. Inside the base, everything was dead. Empty chairs, flickering monitors, broken security cameras, but someone had left the main hallway lights on, like breadcrumbs. Kira followed them, past rows of storage units and cryopods, past a room marked bio-resonance testing, and then a door. It simply said, Kira H, final sequence. She opened it. The room looked like a childhood bedroom, pink curtains, a worn-out teddy bear, 2 twin beds, and on one of them sat Lana, fully grown, pale, eyes wide with recognition, and something deeper, fear. "Hi, Kira," she whispered. Kira collapsed to her knees, tears falling before words could. "You're alive," Lana nodded. "I'm not just me," she said softly. "They made copies. So many, some broke, some forgot who they were, but I remembered you. She looked toward the mirror in the corner. That's why they kept me. Kira followed her gaze and gasped. Behind the two-way mirror stood Jake, not dead, but not quite alive either. His face was blank, his hands pressed flat against the glass, like he was watching them through a fog. Lana stood slowly, walked to the mirror. They made him the guardian, she said, because he resisted. He tried to help me escape years ago. They punished him, stripped his memories, turned him into their watchdog. Kira approached. Jake, it's me. You saved me. You gave me the drive. You brought me here. For a moment, a flicker. His hand trembled. A tear slid down one cheek, and then the speakers crackled. A woman's voice, cold, mechanical. Subject 17 has fulfilled its emotional sequence. Prepare for erasure, Lana gasped. No, they're going to wipe him again. Kira lunged toward the console beside the mirror. Lines of code scrolled rapidly. Lana, help me. Lana hesitated, then knelt beside her. Try sequence override. Password might be echo root. That was their root protocol. Kira typed it in. The screen flashed. Override accepted. Run reintegrate. She hit yes. A low hum filled the room. Jake collapsed to his knees, and then he blinked. Kira, he rasped. Lana? He clutched his head, groaning. They made me forget. They used me to trap others. You didn't know, Kira said softly. You're not them. You tried to stop it. The alarm sounded. Security breach detected. Initiating failsafe protocol. Lights turned red. A countdown began overhead. T-10. Lana ran to the wall panel. There's a failsafe. It destroys everything, including this whole wing. We need to get out, now. Jake staggered to his feet. There's a side tunnel, he said. It was used for transport, leads back to the old rail line. But only one cart runs at a time. They ran. Sirens blared. Heat rose from the floor vents. Behind them, the base began to hum, alive and furious. At the tunnel's end, the rail cart waited, a single lever, a single track. Kira, Jake, and Lana stood together, only 2 seats. Jake looked at them both, then smiled softly. This is your turn now. I finish it from here. No, Kira said firmly. We go together. Jake shook his head. Kira, I'm already half gone. Let me do this for both of you, for all of them. Lana sobbed. Jake, please. He took her hand. You gave me back who I was. You saved me more than once. He turned to Kira. You were never running from your past. You were running toward your truth. He pulled the lever. The cart launched forward. With Kira and Lana inside, Jake stepped back, watching them vanish into the dark tunnel, and then the base erupted behind him. A fireball consumed the last echoes of the Echo program. Weeks later, Kira and Lana sat in a park in Portland. Watching joggers run by, a breeze stirred the leaves. You okay? Lana asked gently. Kira nodded. For the first time in years. I think I am. They had gone public, fully. They named names, released video, testimony, evidence. The world couldn't ignore them anymore. Echo was dismantled. Trials began. More survivors found their voices, and Jake became a symbol, a man who had lost himself to save others. Kira now ran differently, not to forget, not to punish herself, but to feel alive. And every so often, as she ran past quiet trails, she heard a voice in the trees. You were never the one who needed saving. And she smiled because she wasn't afraid anymore. The end.